Real Estate Investing Profits presents Profit Masters with your host, world-renowned real estate coach and investor, Corey Boatwright. Now, strap in and get ready to learn elite wealth-building investment strategies taught by 6- and 7-figure house flipping masters as they reveal their best real estate investing profit secrets to you right now.
What's going on? This is Corey Boatwright, founder of Real Estate Investing Profits, and your host today on Real Estate Investing Profit Masters podcast series. What is up? What is up? Man, this is an incredible interview with none other than Mr. Patrick Precourt. Now, if you don't know who Patrick is, he's somebody that is going to blow your mind, okay? This guy has really done just about it all. He's really done everything you could think of. He spent most of his 20s working in a family home inspection company, okay? And then what happened is during that time, he was also competing in rugby, okay? And he started to get involved with real estate investing shortly afterwards. You got to hear this interview. The way he explains it is really killer. He actually did his first property deal, his first transaction in real estate when he's 25 years old. And so he really got at it at a quick pace at a young age. And now what he does is he basically teaches people how to get the most out of their lives. I mean, how to strip back everything and just get to the core of what you want to do in life and what you're passionate about. Now, he's also went on in his life to complete over 1,000, yes, that is 1,000 short sale transactions. We had a little conversation about he and I when we first met that actually one of the things that brought us together, because I was doing short sales and he was too. So you want to hear a little bit about that story. And he's actually an author of a book as well, Wake Up and Live the Life That You Love, The Power Team. And I mean, the guy's done just about everything you can imagine. He's got a software a company called Finer Solution. And then they also have Prop Tracker that they work on for real estate investing applications. But basically now Patrick is still doing real estate, but he focuses on these properties that no one wants to do anything with, right? And this story is going to blow your mind because he's going to tell you about a $2 million acquisition that he bought for, ready for this, $40,000. It's unbelievable. You've got to hear this interview. All right, so make sure that you listen in here and text the word profit to 38470. That's the word profit to 38470. And you can download our must-read study guide. I mean, basically right now it is we get so many downloads for that thing on a daily basis. So if you haven't downloaded it, make sure you do. And stay tuned here for this interview because you're going to just be blown away for what you're going to receive for this short time listening. So I appreciate you. And here you go, Mr. Patrick Precourt. What is up, Mr. Precourt?
Howdy, sir. Good to see you, bro.
Good to see you too, man. So tell me, where are you calling in from?
I am calling in from a little town called Cromwell, Connecticut. Population of about 8,900 people.
Oh my God. So you actually, whenever you drive into the town, it actually says population, 8,900?
We don't have a whole lot of people in this town.
Do you have a fire department in the town?
We do.
One grocery store, one bank that everyone goes to, right? That's awesome. So I'm from Oklahoma, obviously, so there's a lot of small towns here. I grew up in a little town called Weatherford, which had like 30,000 people in it. And I think that was when we had our college so we actually had a college, but 8,900 is pretty small, man.
Yeah, all good though.
Pretty small. Well, thanks for taking the time to be on here. Super excited to have you talk about some of the incredible things that you're a part of right now. I know that real estate is just one of them. I want to stay mostly focused on that, but you're just a wealth of information. It's funny if you remember about when you and I met, we were actually almost at odds together because we were involved with short sales. And I remember that was Ryan Tuis and Angie and Claude back in that day. I think it was 2000 2006 or 2007. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
And you were doing short sales. I was doing short sales. And it was almost like we came to this one event. It was called the Virtual Investing Seminar, I believe. And we met there. You would do that event or another boot camp. I think it was that one, the first one. And when we met each other, it was kind of like, hey, I've heard about you. You've heard about me. We were doing short sales, and you were crushing it and continued to crush it. But I remember when I first met you that you were just this person that had this incredible confidence of and kind of belief, not only just in yourself, but what you're capable of. But I remember that you were a person that was just on purpose. I just remember thinking like that dude has purpose in his life. And, fast forward to today, right? I mean, 8 years later, you've done things that have just very few humans on the planet will ever have the experience of. I mean, you've been a part of huge boot camps. You ran huge sales organizations of not just in the 7-figure, the 8-figure, but close to the 9-figure numbers. I mean, this is big stuff here. And what you're doing now, you have your own like UFC type gym. You're doing real estate now. You've got a family. You're teaching them. You're leading them. And I think the one word that describes you best, and from my standpoint, is leadership. And John Maxwell said leadership is influence. So I appreciate you being on here. I'm excited to have you on here. I've always had a great amount of respect for you, Patrick, and now you and I being a part of the mastermind for Collective Genius, and now you actually playing a bigger role as the COO now, right?
Yeah, title, something like that.
Some title, right? Some title. But can you go ahead and let everyone know just a little bit about yourself and what area of real estate now that you're being focused on? What's your expertise? Because it's a little bit similar to short sales in terms of the ones that nobody wanted to deal with. But I think it's really interesting to talk about your story with real estate and what you're doing right now.
Sure. And put this all in context, Cody, why don't we start with, I'll just give you a snapshot of where we're at today. And
Perfect.
Then we'll go back to where it all came from, right?
Okay,
so,
sure.
First and foremost, proud husband and dad, right? And married 22 years, and I got 3 awesome kids. And those are definitely what everything I do focuses around. And when we get into kind of some of this other detail, you'll see really what that means, A big part of what I do now is in the personal development space, as it relates to entrepreneurs, as it relates to growing and expanding businesses, as it relates to us having become bigger than the businesses that we have to grow,
Absolutely.
Right? That's just become a massive passion of mine. You're right, I still do a lot in real estate, which we'll dig into in a second. Do have a large lifestyle fitness. I call it a lifestyle fitness center with the heart and culture of our martial arts. He said, I do a lot of things that a lot of people haven't done. Are you saying a lot of people don't step in an MMA cage?
No, not a lot of them don't.
So I have done a little MMA fighting. And I'll be honest with you, that was kind of my retirement coming off almost 16 years of playing rugby. So that was actually easier than the rugby stuff, all right? But but all good, Right. And the gym was really an extension of us just becoming better every day. People come in, and just to give me an example of like how we run our business, people come into our fitness center not to work out, not to train, not to do Pilates, not to fight in the cage. They come in for one reason only, to better themselves from the way they were the day before. That's it. Nobody competes with anybody. They compete with themselves from where they were, right? And that way we're always all growing and expanding, getting better. So it's got a unique culture to it. And that kind of is the way we do everything in all the different business enterprises that we're involved in, even in our real estate game. You mentioned, our career as short sale, and both you and I have done a lot of short sales, right? And we both came to the same ceiling where as the government got more involved, the short sale process got interfered with, it got boilerplate, it got commoditized.
Right.
And it really became a poor use of time, generally speaking, not in all deals, but as we'd up to 2008, we'd completed a little over 800 short sale transactions from the time that we'd started.
Jeez.
First one, of course, was not by design, it was by accident.
That's me too. Yep.
Yeah, we could talk about that. So we had an entire business built around exclusively short sale. Didn't do rehabbing. My joke used to be the only tool I own is a broom, and that was only to brush off the walk. That's it. That's all we did. And, but that changed, and one part of being a great entrepreneur is adapting to the environment as it changes.
Absolutely.
But it didn't get us out of real estate altogether. We got a lot more into the rehabbing side of it because as our money flow changed, we just followed the money. It became institutional money wanting to lend on perfectly clean, pretty, done for you FHA-backed houses. And that's what our market became. So it made sense to get into the market and rehab houses and give them exactly what people wanted. Nobody, that whole sweat equity thing came and went pretty quick with the advent of no longer getting equity lines of credit when you close on a deal, right?
Right.
It was like, we're done with that. We want a house that doesn't even have a chip in the paint.
Right.
All right, we do that. So we got into rehabbing stuff, but that was only as opportunistic as the average investment deal. And we've always looked for something more than that. You could make a great living there, make no mistake. And like you and I both have great buddies that are doing phenomenal things.
Incredible.
In that category. So I'm not knocking it in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
But we choose to work a little outside of the norm.
Well, now, remember, we had to have 50 or 60 in the pipeline at all times to be able to have a consistency of closing, right? And now for me, it just didn't become as fun. I had a guy I was dealing with that we closed over 300 short sales with in our local area with the title company, and he had a conversation with me, and there were things were getting tighter with the restrictions. The holds were getting harder, and we'd go closings, and the closing wouldn't happen, and it just became not as fun, right? And we kind of transitioned to wholesaling and flipping contracts, and it was so much easier to get a deal done from contract to close, right? And once we put the focus on there, it just became kind of the low hanging fruit, right? I know, like you said, we still know folks that do great on short sales. I think that it's at some point when it becomes not as fun for you, you have to move on. You have to have fun at what you're doing, right?
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah.
And I got frustrated with it. First, we bought it. In Connecticut got very tough in its legislative approach to it and the licensing. And then basically the attorneys banded together and said, let's push the companies like Pat's company out of business. I kind of took like a screw you approach to it.
Yep.
Banded together with one of our title attorneys and my closing attorney. We formed a new law company, Connecticut Debt Settlement Law Firm.
Jeez.
Okay, so now we stood outside of all these silly rules that are writing. But even in there's just at some point I'm like, am I fighting this because I really want it, or am I fighting it just to beat them? Right?
Yeah.
And when the latter is the answer,
I think your personality would be just to beat them, right?
Yeah.
Just because you want to win. And and then after a while, it's like, is that the wisest thing?
Yeah,
right?
You got to humble yourself and say, right now you're doing it for the wrong reason, right? Because what happens once you beat them, your drive is gone, right? And you're left out. You're done at that point. That's a problem with competing with anyone.
And
right?
don't the attorneys work? The attorneys win too. Even though you had that law firm, obviously, maybe you collected some. But when you start going through some legal battles, attorneys win at the end of the day. You have to really figure out, here's the thing. Attorneys don't get paid to go slow. We'll just leave it at that, right? That's really what it comes down to. The attorneys are going to win that deal.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. All right. So this is cool. So that's kind of talking about how you got involved with real estate. Do you have a influence that you had that was really something that just kind of pushed you into the real estate space?
So we got started because I was working in, so we'll go all the way back. Went to college for a few years, played rugby during college, had a framing company during college, didn't focus a whole lot on college.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of my 4 years, I left. I walked out right before they kicked me out. Let's put it that way, okay? At the same time, okay, I blew out my knee playing rugby. And as I just moved from college rugby onto a men's side, which was the single most important thing to me at the time. So now I got kicked out of college. I can't play rugby anymore, and I'm pretty much lame for a while. And it got one step further without going deep into that framing company that I had during school, okay? We framed big houses, 10 to 12,000 square foot houses for a company. All we did was frame, but on Fridays they'd show up in a big long black limousine. They come up from New York. A bunch of big guys in suits would get out and they hand me this. This is absolutely. They hand me a brown bag of cash.
just full cash.
So picture this scene. They're out in New York. They're in a big, long black limousine. A bunch of really big dudes that look really intense. They give you
Italian mafia kind of dudes. Wow.
Well, we had almost 15 of us that framed together on our crew, but they're all mates of mine, right?
Right.
There's one kid that wasn't a direct disciple, was a friend of a friend that filed a tax return on me, who I didn't claim as an employee. He was claiming to be an employee, getting paid in cash. The IRS didn't like that.
No.
They looked into it. They wanted then me to give up Uncle Louie. Follow me on that? Anyways, all of this comes crashing down.
Oh, man.
They want me to pay him a few $100,000.
Or give up somebody's name that you didn't want to.
Or give up Uncle Louie.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had this one. I will never forget this moment because you asked what made me step forward, right? I'll never forget this moment where I showed up on a Friday, scared to death. Okay, I looked this dude straight in the face. I said, "Listen, I got to tell you something." And I said, "The IRS, the investigators, and all this stuff were at my house again. They're threatening me with all this kind of stuff, and they want me to turn over you." He looked at me and goes, "What'd you say?" I said, "I have no idea what they're talking about. I have no reference. I'm not telling them anything." And he paused, no smile, no smirk, no nothing. Hands me my cash, shakes my hand, says, "Don't let me ever see you again." I'm like, that was it, dude. Wow. And then with that, we had to get
that's intense.
Another attorney involved to fight the IRS. At the end of it, I'm leaving college without a degree, with a blown out ACL, with $150,000 that I now owe the IRS. That's how it all settled. So the drive to get busy was that. It's like, I'm not letting it. I had to move. I was the big guy on campus driving around the big truck because we always had cash every Friday. Yep. To moving back home into my the classic, into my parents' basement, dude. Okay?
Wow.
Had to sell my truck. Couldn't afford my truck anymore. Okay?
You got to pay the IRS.
Tiny little used 2-wheel drive pickup truck.
And they made some type of like payment arrangement. Probably was pretty high for you to keep up with it.
The payment rate, but I committed myself. I'm like, I'm not gonna live under this weight of the IRS,
sure.
And I committed to figuring out a way to pay it off. And I didn't know a thing about real estate investment yet. What I did is I went door to door, knocking on people's houses, offering remodeling jobs, and I told my whole story. Dude, you want to hear the irony of this? This is funny as hell. So listen, I'll do the best job available. And if you're not happy with my work, you don't have to pay me. Here's my situation. Told them the whole situation. The only caveat to any of this is you got to pay me in cash.
Oh, no. Oh, man. Because you don't want the IRS to know how much. Oh, that's funny. That's hilarious.
The IRS,
wow.
In just over 12 months with money that was paid to me in cash, and they never asked ever where it came from. Tell me that's not ironic.
That's pretty ironic. It really is. Yeah. Jeez, man.
Shortly after that, one of the projects we ended up doing was for an investor. Okay. That opened my eyes.
Sure.
Because guess what? They were not looking like me each day at the end of each day. You know what I mean? I'm just being honest with you, and they drove a much nicer truck than I drove. Yeah. Like something's going on. And I'll be honest, we started out a little slow. And then I hired a mentor, and this isn't one of those, has a nice fancy ending story to it. The mentor ripped us off. Okay.
Gotcha.
And on hindsight, I would have got the right mentor sooner. But if you asked who was our biggest drive, it was this one individual. My wife and I borrowed the money for his mentoring. We went out to Las Vegas and saw him, gave him this money, never saw him again. Okay. Now the difference in that today is now, as you know, you can put anybody's name in.
There's some slime balls, but there's some good guys, right?
But it's hard to hide your track record.
I agree. Now, social media has really done a good job.
I want to know about you. I'm not going to ask you.
Yeah.
going to ask everybody who knows you. I'm going to look to see what you do out there, right?
Yep.
Next to bet. That wasn't quite around. This is early,
right.
90s, mid 90s, you know?
Yeah, it wasn't near. Yeah, you still had to do a lot of digging to find out anyone unless you heard them on TV or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the IRS incident got me started. This guy ripping me off pushed me into it. I was like, screw this. And that was a moment that we committed into real estate investment. But at this point, we had no money to do anything with. And our first deal was a lease option deal that we ended up wholesaling and making like $5,000 on. When you make $5,000 and you have no money in your name or in your bank account,
that's a lot of money.
It's a ton of money.
It's a lot of, and at one time coming in. I mean, it's yeah.
Oh yeah. And I'm like, wow. You know, and that opened up our world to what was now available to us.
It's interesting because that really is, I asked a question about a breaking point that you had. I would probably categorize that as your breaking point, right? So you're like, if I don't pay the IRS, right, then they're going to be on me for the rest of my life, and there's a weight, and you almost feel like you're controlled by them. So that was kind of your breaking point of enough's enough to break out of, I guess, really the framing business and really open your mind about how could I imagine at that point you were going, okay, I have $150,000 or however much money it was in total to pay off the IRS. What's the fastest human way possible that's legal that I could do it? And I think that probably real estate has got to be in the top 5, if not in the top 3 of those things.
Real estate was the only answer
to
that, or something to do with real estate. The funny thing about this, you know, because we all get put in pressure points in our lives at different moments, and typically they don't get smaller, they get bigger, you know. Yeah. We only have 2 options. Either we step up to it or we step back from it. And you step back, it crushes us every time, you know.
I love it. I call it flex or folding, man. Same thing. Either flex or fold. I love it.
Yeah. And you know, in the fighting world, it's referred to as the flinch, right? When somebody goes throw, you either flinch back, which puts you in their striking range at their full power, or you slip into it. You step forward into it, which puts you in an offensive position, and you take away their striking range, right?
Right.
On fighter, the first thing they do is they'll flinch back. So somebody throws a jab at you, you pull back. And what you're really doing is you're putting yourself at the end of the most powerful part of their punch.
Wow.
Versus just slipping into it, where even if they hit you, there's no energy behind it, and you are already moving forward into the next move. So you're on your toes and not on your heels, right?
Wow.
And with all of, and I know you've been through some amazing challenges yourself, particularly with your bout with cancer. You could have victimized yourself and blamed and hated and took in a spot which is affected as a flinch back, a step back, which would have, in my opinion, would have ended up with a different physical result, right? You would have brought on an outcome that you did not want.
I agree with that.
Right?
Yes.
Right. And such is life. Life does not get simpler, man. We either step up or we step back.
You flex or fold, man. I love the flinch analogy for fighting. And I love the idea of, even though sometimes it seems kind of scary to flex, or in your example, be on the offensive, it actually is the least amount of damage possible, right? Whenever you do that. And you're also, I would say, taking away from fear, right? Because it's funny, because sometimes when you get scared, I kind of tell myself something that thing I'm scared of should be scared of me. It's funny because it just changes your perspective. Now, I could be really scared, because people get scared sometimes in your life, right, for something. But I just tell myself, like, I remember I was getting ready to go on this roller coaster thing with my niece, okay? And it does this, like, I think it's called a silver bullet. And so it's at Frontier City here in Oklahoma City. And this thing, it shoots you really fast, and you do a loop like this, and then you do another loop like this, okay? And then you sit there for a minute, and then it shoots you backwards, and you go backwards and do a loop like this, okay? And that's what the whole ride is. And it's real fast and everything. And you get up there, and you're watching this thing happen. And you see people shooting, you see people screaming and doing all this stuff. And at that moment, I'm just thinking, I'm scared, right? There's a part of you that's going, what if, right? Anything could happen. What if this is my last day? And then at that moment, I felt that fear. I just tell myself, that roller coaster should be afraid of me. And it's such a strange thing, but all of a sudden I just feel like I'm in more of a control position in terms of in a healthy place where I don't allow that thing to get bigger in me, right? Bigger on me. I guess that in that example, I didn't flinch. I flexed towards the fear, right? And it makes all the difference in the world. And I think the same thing for the cancer too. There was a moment in my life where the doctor said you have a 4% chance. It was actually right before my surgery. Said you have a 4% chance of dying, Mr. Boatwright, and a 6% chance your vocal cords can be paralyzed. And I remember, dude, that was a scary feeling, right? And I think just changing the way that you think about things and getting a new perspective on it and having these tools that we're talking about here and how to use them. I know that you're going to probably talk about this in a little bit about how you have peak performance in your life, right? How do you create these new tools that you can use to affect your, what we talked about before, is their efficacy, right? Which is your potential that you don't even see in yourself. You may be scared crapless, right? And you don't know what to do because no one has given you the tools. But when you have the tools, because that mentor or that coach or that thing has helped you, right? For your example, your students have got these. Now you teach them something and they use these tools and they now have a greater understanding of their potential that they didn't have even before they couldn't see themselves.
Yeah, no doubt, bro.
Yeah.
And back to that fear thing for a second, fear is an emotion, right? It's an expression. And emotions, of course, we choose. Therefore, we have to own the responsibility of them.
Right.
And there's fears that are legitimate. There's fears that, if you're about to fall off a cliff and falling off will kill you, that's legitimate fear, right?
Right.
That's not most of our fears. So
I agree.
And it's not a lack of fear that makes someone special, because I don't know anybody who does not get scared, right? It's the acting upon the fear. It's a courageous act that really is what separates one category of people from the next. And one mind hack I use to disseminate between real fears and these kind of made
irrational fears.
Yeah, it's the idea: is this fear or is it fact? Right?
That's good. So you ask that question, and is this
fear? Is it like something I'm making up out of the unknown or the what ifs, or is this fact that I'm dealing with?
I really like that, man. Fear, fact, yeah.
Yeah, and remember, the fear deals with the emotion, and fact deals with our intellect and our intellectual thinking. So
sure.
Now we can rationalize through it. And keep in mind that as emotions go up, intelligence goes down. The more we allow fear to be in our way, the dumber we get. So now take that concept and look at national politics, not either side, all sides, politics in general. It thrives on our fear because they know the more scared we get, the dumber we get.
That makes a lot of sense. Sure. I haven't thought about it that way. Yeah.
Manipulatable we are.
Right.
Maybe make the word up. But you follow me on that? That's why it's so embedded in all of politics.
Right. It makes sense.
Yeah. So my personal mind hack, and make no mistake, there's shit that scares me. Is it, Pat, is this fear or is it fact? Is there something, am I at physical risk or harm right now? And the answer always is no.
Yeah. Right.
Rarely do I run the risk of a bear attacking me outside. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But you feel like it, right? You feel like you're going to die. Like, so what's the example of that in our real estate business, right? One example might be if I do this deal, my kids, my family's all going to be end out on the street, right? Like a irrational fear, right? Yeah.
And so you look at because the greatest root of fear is change in our lives, because change initiates the fear of the unknown. What happens next that we don't know because we haven't done it. We're changing. And fear of course, failing at what we're going to do. Fear of judgment of others. All those other fears.
That's
right.
True.
And every time, right. And to your point, you can say, stop, time out. Is it fear or is it fact? Right. Is somebody really going to judge me for the outcome of this decision? Right. And if you could possibly think of somebody that really is going to judge you, you'd quickly realize you don't give a shit anyways. That person means nothing to you. Right. They mean less than nothing to you.
Right.
You're like, well, that was nothing to be afraid of. Undid that one, And you just go step by step. And it's the easiest way to conquer it and put us in a state of courage instead of cowardness, right?
I love that state of cowardness and courage. I think that really goes well with the fear and the fact. Also, the thing that I was talking about where it's, that thing should be scared of me, irrational fears. I mean, those are great tools, man. We could talk about that all day long, and we probably should at some another time. I want to stay focused if we can on a couple other things with the real estate side, because I know that some people are asking some questions about, whenever you're involved with real estate, they're always interested in not just the deals that went great, but the deals that went sour, right? Could you talk about maybe one deal that didn't work out and how you got through it, Pat?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There's one that'll always stick in my mind, not because it was maybe close to my biggest loss, but because it hurt the most at the time. Right. Yeah. Because at a point where, so we were a short sale company. That's what we did, right?
Yep.
And an opportunity, and that's a scary word sometimes, came upon our way where we could move down, we could go do some work at the other corner of the state in a little town called Greenwich. Greenwich, Connecticut is one of the most affluent cities in the entire United States of America, okay?
Nice.
There's a property there we could have bought for $1.1 million, tore down the house, built a new property that would have been worth about $5 million. Okay?
Wow, that's a big one.
Yeah, and this was being handed to us. So there's a couple things here, okay? And they needed a $150,000 deposit, 10% non-refundable deposit.
All right, so now you got to step up or step out.
Yes. Now, remember all that stuff I said about stepping up versus stepping out? There is a time to step aside. There's some basic rules of business and investment, right?
Sure.
One of them is stick to what you know, right? Two is don't risk bigger than you're willing to lose, We broke these rules. Stick with what you're familiar with, right? Now, I'll caveat that by saying if that's all you ever did, you never expand, right?
Sure.
But you still, the idea you stick with what you're familiar with, except for that 10% of everything you do where you work outside your boundary, right? But that's like your research and development department.
Right.
That's where you're constantly pushing limits. Some work, some don't, but they'll balance out to a positive gain. Right. Well, we took like 90% of us and went outside the boundaries here. We didn't have the $150,000 in cash, so myself and my partner took an equity line on our houses, okay, for $75,000 each, pointing up $150,000 in a deal that went south in 7 business days, okay?
Oh, what happened?
It was a non-refundable deposit on a contract that, hey, we thought it was good. Did we have an attorney review it or anything like that? No. We were promised an approved building permit, but that wasn't part of the contract. When our financer for it, we had financing lined up, came to, and let's add to this, there was a time is of the essence clause. And for any of the listeners who don't know what that means that the dates are hard. They're enforceable. There's no extension of them, okay? Mm-hmm. Just mental note. Remember that, people, if you're not familiar with that term. And then when you get into commercial real estate, when you get into a lot of business-to-business real estate, you'll see some of these terms show up, as you know, Corey, right?
Did you have a out clause, though, in there, too? I mean, at that point, you probably worked with, like, a inspection. Did you have, like, something that could have been an out in it? Or was it just one of those deals?
1.5-page contract, purchase price, legal address, non-refundable deposit, parties involved, time is of the essence. Yeah.
It is hard. I mean, that's a hard contract.
Remember that whole emotions go up, intelligence goes down? Our emotions were up here somewhere.
You're seeing $5 million, right?
Dude,
that's what you're seeing.
I was walking on my intelligence. You know what I'm saying?
Yep,
it was that low in the ground.
I get it.
And what had happened is the permit to build was not available upon teardown. So our financer said, I ain't funding you until that gets done. We went down to strong arm, bully these people into the building department. And Greenwich is a funny town. Pretty much they'll only do business with people who live and do business in that town. It's a very interesting town that way. Your way in is to work with a builder or an attorney and let them be your liaison.
Someone's got to edify you. Someone's got to. It's basically like a referral only town. Sounds like.
Right? But because we knew it all,
right?
You ever go through a stage of your life when you knew it all?
Oh yeah,
we knew it all, dude. Okay, we knew it all. Okay, finance or wouldn't fund. Performance day came and went. Lost $150,000 in 7 business days. Okay. Got all pissed off, bent out of shape, went back to sue them because you're supposed to provide the permit. We spent another $25,000. This is where you start throwing bad money on bad money. Another $25,000 just for them to tell us, Pat, we could drag this out 2 years. It'll cost you at least $75,000 more, and there's a small chance, but you might win.
Right.
Some point you gotta cut it. Right.
That's the hardest point too, because at that point you're telling yourself something that you didn't win. You're telling yourself at that point that that you're quitting, and there's a difference between quitting, right, for something that's the wrong reason, or quitting for something that's the right reason, right? And there's a book by Seth Godin called The Dip. It's a little book. It's probably this big. Okay. There's one little clause in there stick out from the rest of my life. Seth said he's talking about all these different business people that know about Seth Godin, and one of the most probably highly visited websites on the internet. Pat, and he also has incredible business. Purple Cow, marketing books. Just an incredible author, amazing businessman. And to your point, he had a clause in there. It said, "You don't have the courage to quit," and just the reframe of quitting and using the word courage changed the way I've looked at quitting things in my life that are not good for me, right? So to your point, it's so tough to pull the plug.
Right. And at that point, it took a ton of humility, took a couple hard discussions with the wives. That $75,000 equity line of credit we just took out that I told you we're going to make a fortune on.
It's done.
It's done. And it ain't coming home. Honey.
Honey. And I totally understand if you want to use that that hotel gift certificate that we got about 3 years ago.
So you asked me the greatest lesson beyond what I said about, stick to what you know. Don't go outside of it. Don't be a dum-dum on emotion. Beyond all that, dude, the greatest lesson I learned in that is that the acceptance that you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
And when I learned that, and I'll never forget what that means, because the moment you accept that, truly accept that you don't know what you don't know, it opens you up like this to learn and grow and expand. Because the second you think you know it all, or you think you know the limits of what you don't know, you close down your ability to learn, grow, and expand. Right. The second you say, "Shit, I think I'm pretty solid in all this, but I'm open." Second you're open, the growing begins. Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was a great. And I would not undo that experience for anything in the world. It was that powerful to us, right? And I'm sure it's made me that $150,000 times X many times over since then, just from those, from the hard lessons.
So the zoom out on that, or the altitude moment on that, or the lesson is wouldn't you rather make a $150,000 quote mistake and learn from it than a $10 million mistake, right? Because later on in your life, you did 8, 9 figures, knocking on 9 figures of deals involved with deals. And I bet that lesson really helped you from, moving forward. That's awesome. Let's talk about something a little bit more positive. What is one of your, what we call our Profit Master investing strategies, where you can share something that's working really well in your business today, and talk about how that's making big profits for you?
Sure. So this is let me share. I'll use an example of a live deal we're doing right now. And this is our migration. I won't say out of short sales, but up from short sales, right? Okay. So the cookie cutter short sale deal became exactly that, cookie cutter, which means that the profits get slimmed down to where it's piecemeal and you can make a good living doing it. Mm-hmm. I like better than good living. I mean, read the shirt, dude. Average sucks. You know what I'm saying?
I got two shirts that say the same thing.
Yeah, you like to step up from there a bit.
Yeah.
So what we focus in on First was where the properties that banks let go at the highest discounts and or ones they're willing to walk away from, which are the ones with the biggest problems, which are title lawsuits or deeply contaminated, environmental contamination type properties, or that have other type of zoning issues involved. Right?
Okay,
So
we're going to put this in, by the way, we're going to put this in the show notes. So go ahead and keep talking. We'll have everything in here that you're talking about with these type of houses.
Right. So you have environmental issues, you have zoning issues, infringements, things like that.
Right.
And then you have the title type lawsuits, or other relative lawsuits to the property.
And most people just stay away from these, but you actually run towards them.
There's the beauty of it. Yeah, there's the beauty of it, right? And it's you know this. It's usually those things that people fear the most that create the greatest possibilities, greatest opportunities in our space. So
yes.
a property that we acquired, I want to say 5 months ago now. I forget exactly. Okay, now the timeline on some of these is a little longer. That's by strategies, not by chance, right? It's all planned in. It was what they call a former Nike Missile Defense Center. You know, the government owned it. It was back in like the 50s and the 60s when we had the missile wars going on, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
They built these all around the country in the highest lying elevation in the area, right? So it's prime real estate. And then it contaminated the hell out of it. So this property developer moves in a few years ago. I say a few years ago, 9-10 years ago. Some big developer put just under $2 million loan on the property. Anyway, couldn't get done when he had to get done.
Okay.
And stopped paying on taxes and everything like that. We got involved. The bank disappeared. They wanted nothing to do with it, okay?
Because it's contaminated and they want to run from it. There's insurance. There's everything else that's issues, right?
Because one thing you have to understand with property contamination is once you own it, you own that problem too.
We should talk about this too quickly. That you also before this had some involvement, or either with your property inspection license, right?
Okay, so go back.
Or home inspection license, I should say.
I was in the home inspection business for a long time. We had a family home inspection company, which then extended into what they call phase 1 and phase 2 property inspections for commercial property. So I'm pretty well versed in everything home.
Right.
You know?
Contaminations. You know how to pick these things out. So you lasered in on this contamination issue.
Oh yeah. And it's funny because as time lapsed, the folklore on the property got bigger, to where people are scared to go up there.
Someone died over there before. It's just get bigger, more and more things.
Somehow, contaminated soil from a leaky oil tank turned into radioactive, like gonna nuke you when you walk up there type stuff. Like,
which you're loving it.
This is just bad,
You're loving it because you just know the price is just going to keep coming down.
So finally, the town, and I don't even know if they had a full plan. They foreclosed on a tax lien. They filed a tax lien, and then they started foreclosing on a tax lien. We bought it at a tax foreclosure sale for $40,000.
$40,000. So this is blowing my mind. The guy before had it for $2 million, right? $2 million. Down to $40,000 because of the contamination and all these issues that everyone wanted to run away from. But you knew what it really was involved, what it really took to probably remedy this thing. You floated this thing all the way to the bank, if you will, and watched it, and then you waited and capitalized and purchased it for $40,000 when before it was purchased when a loan on it for $2 million. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Oh, that's incredible. It's such an incredible story. So what happened from there?
All right. So I win the property at auction. I was the only one there bidding on it. Right. And so it's still a process because I have a pretty good idea of what would make sense up there, and residential housing would work, but there's a higher and best use, which would be high-end apartments. Right. So I would need a zoning change. And I don't, be honest with you, I'm not an expert at that stuff. I don't have the time for that stuff, and I don't like spending my time. I like my time is spent making people bigger every day. That's what I do, right?
Gotcha.
That's how I make an impact. But I love real estate. I love making money in real estate. So I went and found a local partner who filled that need. And it's a guy in town. He owns a liquor store. He knows everybody. He's on the zoning board in town. He gets it, right?
Right.
And he happened to be a good friend of mine, too. So I said, listen, got a deal for you. Give me 20 grand. I'll make a 50-50 partner on this. And he knows I wouldn't be bringing it to him if there was an opportunity, right?
Right.
Like, all right, I'm in. So now cut to the end, right? Within 2 or 3 weeks, he had the property contracted for sale under an option to buy with the developer for $385,000.
Golly.
Now, here's the coolest part about this, Cody, okay? Right. Let's go to Cody. Corey,
people call me Cody all the time.
You got 4 letters in each of your names, dude, that both start out with C-O and end in Y.
Right.
So and this deal to the developer would be the least he's ever paid per unit in land. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So it's an outstanding deal. So how I wrote with an option to buy the property subject to the zoning change and getting the project complete. That's where it makes sense. They had to put 50 grand up front, non-refundable option fee, and then they pay all of our costs, our insurance, our property taxes. This way it's not a financial burden to me at all. It doesn't matter how long it takes to me.
There's no risk. You put 50 grand of non-depositable, that pays for your acquisition. I mean, there's no risk.
Oh, yeah.
You got profit, actually. I think you guys got 5 grand each on top of that.
Yeah, right?
Hilarious.
But that makes this type of transaction infinitely scalable, right? That was kind of the design here. Infinitely scalable, and you'll never run out of money. You won't run out of time because I outsource. I won't even say outsource. I leverage other people who have the right resources to finish the deal.
Makes sense.
Right? And I make sure we get the money coming right back in that we put out. Now, you could do 100 of these, and once you put the deal together, you could stand aside. And everybody's equally driven and motivated to get it done because they don't get paid. They don't make their money until it gets done. And that's the other key component, when you're bringing in any kind of partner, is make sure they're as leveraged in terms of driven as you are.
You guys are 50-50 at that point, right?
50-50, and now he's got skin in the game, and nothing will happen until he gets to it. So anyways, long story short, we got it through zoning. That wasn't too much of a problem. Now we're just waiting for the project to get approved, which is about 4 more weeks, I would guess. And we'll get this big old fat lumping check dumped on our desk. Yeah.
That is incredible, man. What a great story. And I think there's so many lessons to be taught through that. One is just because the deal isn't cookie cutter and it looks a little scary, that sometimes that has the biggest opportunity in it. But don't go and do something with that if you don't know necessarily what you're doing, right? You have a background, you knew what you were doing, you recognized when there was opportunity and you knew to capitalize on it. And then even though you knew how to do it and you knew what was involved, you found another partner that was willing to share, quote, the risk of in explaining what you were wanting to do, not because you couldn't do it yourself, but because you didn't want to put the focus on it. Right? You wanted to give him more of the focus on making some of these other pieces be moved around on the puzzle, and you brought the deal to him. You were there if you need some guidance along the way, but you're letting him handle most of that process. And then what's interesting, you probably, I would guess, pitched it to him in the fact that we're going to get a $40,000 or $50,000 non-refundable, whoever we're going to work with. So we're going to get all of our money back right then and there, maybe even a little bit of a profit, and then from there, everything else is gravy, right?
We just back and let it happen.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So let me just share one other quick short one. So just to see the variety we get involved with, right? Because I'm looking for properties that have problems that nobody wants to deal with. So I have another property in town that I've been familiar with. 2 small lots in an industrial zone. The challenge with industrial has a little different taxation and a little different types of way the things are built out and the cost, and the lots are too small to support any real justification building a building there, and they can't sell the lots, right?
Right.
So I'm like, got an idea for you, okay? How about we combine the lots, we'll go to zoning, we'll make 2 lots into 1 lot, I'll take care of all that, and you'll build this new building on it, which I'll move my gym into. Once we season it out a year, I will buy the entire package from you for what you want for the lots. Now, by combining them, it immediately almost doubles the value not of 1 + 1, but 1 + 1 instead equals 2. 1 + 1 now equals 4.
That's great.
It's because of the square footage and the
I get it. I'm following. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And it's simply providing a solution to a problem property. That's all, right? And the way you'll love this deal. So the way this deal is written, okay, is they own the property. So now they're going to take out a loan against the property, build a building of my dream for our gym, right?
Right.
And we're going to do it. It's going to be second to none because it's in the industrial zone. It's the only zoning in the town that allows for much higher ceilings. So I can do much more now, right? Where no other gym in the area is in an industrial zone. So it's the coolest thing in the world, right? So they're going to build it, turn package. I right from the very beginning, I had an option to buy it at our pre-agreed price. So when they get it sold, they get their property sold, and then I give them a little extra so they make some sort of profit on it. In exchange, now I have a less expense. It'll cost me less to own this than I pay now, and it'll be all on the gym, not at all on my personal credit. It'll be standalone. And the idea, the creation of the gym was always to sell it. Now you keep the property, you sell the gym, you become the landlord, and ultimately in control of it long term, right?
Right.
The whole business model. Yeah. So that's another example of the deals we're involved with.
And it's just like it's seeing angles, right? That's really what this has come down to, is seeing angles. I think you're really, really good at that. That's something that I always like to do as well, is see that angle. So the lesson here is don't be afraid of something just because you think it may be taboo, right? To stay away from it. It may be an opportunity there, but you need to see the angle, and you need to know how to capitalize on the angle. That's such a great story. I love it. I mean, I know there's a ton of value from it. What's a piece of advice, Pat, that you give for running a successful real estate business? And what we're going to do now is start to kind of push into a speed round here. So what is a piece of advice that you would have for running a successful real estate business?
Without a doubt, know why you're doing it.
Know why you're doing it.
I've seen and I'm just being honest with you, I've seen too many entrepreneurs, particularly in the real estate space, that come in and get beat down and end up with crappy lives and crappy marriages and crappy kid relationships because why they think they're doing and what they're doing it for, they're just not in compliance. When you don't know why you're doing it, it's very hard to build a business around your lifestyle. And so many of us, and you've heard this too, somebody say, well, what's your why? Well, it's to create financial independence for my wife and my family, my kids, and all this kind of stuff, right? But then when you look at how they're running their lives, the two don't mesh. They're not blended together.
I agree.
Be honest with yourself. A lot of people, let's be honest, they get into it because of the ego side of it, the quick money.
Yep.
Get clear on that. If that's the case, you gotta check your real person, because there's shorter paths than coming down this road. This one will not lead to a good place if you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. What's your why behind the why? Usually asking about 5 other whys, you get to the real why. That's great. What about if you had to start all over? What would you change? Some advice for maybe newbies.
If I had to start all over right now, I would find a mentor as soon as I possibly could. I'd find the right person to work with.
So many people say that.
I'm all for just trying to muscle it through. Muscling it through is just not always the smartest way of doing it.
Right.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, I'm of it in some degree, kind of like a blue collar mindset of like, I got to do it all myself. Right.
I think we struggle with that. A lot of us do.
It's got to be all me.
Right.
It's just not the smart way to do it. There's a shorter, easier path to doing it. That's good. Let somebody else who's done it show you the way. Then you get dirty a little and test your limits. You figure out what makes you special, right? But let somebody else get you into the game, without a doubt.
I love it. What's your favorite motivational or business quote, Pat?
So there's one, and it's picture. I have a picture upstairs. I should have brought a camera. Picture a fighting warrior, right?
Okay.
His student is asking him a question. He says, Sensei, you trained me so hard to be a fighter, but you keep speaking of peace. How do you reconcile that? Mm-hmm. Right? And the sensei looks at him in the picture, of course, and he goes, I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Right. That's
what that
great.
Means to me is, you be prepared for everything.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean you have to be, out attacking or doing whatever. But if it comes your way, you be ready for it. And this even comes down to the way we deal with possibilities and things that are, brought to our plate. If we're not ready for them, man, they'll come by. We won't even notice some of them, right? But that I love, right? I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
I love that. That's really good. What about a book that you recommend, or maybe one that's really changed your life?
Oh goodness, well, what would you say to that? There's
so many.
Yeah. There's so again, along the lines of a warrior, this is just kind of where I come from. Warrior of Light is one that is a very special book. I don't know if you've ever read it, but
no, I haven't read that one. I'll add it to the list.
The nice thing about Warrior of Light, so don't get caught up on the word warrior. It comes from the warrior kind of mindset, but it's how we deal with things in life, and a lot of it to deal, like we were talking about. When do you not give up, and when do you humble yourself so that you can live to fight another day, right? And there's one other one I rage, and if this is for those of you who like to do deep inner work and understand the world at a much deeper level. It's called the 3 Magic Words. And it has to do a lot with how energy is transferred amongst us and amongst, even between your words and your emotions and thought, and how it adjusts your physiology. You hear people speak, smart people speak about how important your words are all the time. Words are a reflection of an emotion. They're used to express an emotion. Emotions and an energy field, right?
Right.
And it'll get back exactly what we put out. And bad words will attract a negative energy back to us. If you're looking for deeper work and understanding, why you always feel like you're swimming upstream, it answers those questions. Why, as soon as I get ahead, it feels like there's somebody around the corner that punches me square in the gut. It'll give you a little insight as to why that happens. Why does he have so much good luck and I have so much bad luck? It'll let you know what's going on there.
You don't know what you don't know. That's pretty good to be able to understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. There's another book that I really, really like a lot. It's by Pressfield, and it's The War of Art instead of Art of War. It talks about the resistance. One of my favorite books. I also refer it to a lot of the coaching students, and it revolutionizes this idea of kind of things that you're really fighting against in life. And many, many times you're fighting against yourself, and you're fighting against the resistance in yourself. And when you look in the mirror, that's your biggest enemy, and what's staring back at you, and what you are telling that person, and the story you're telling that person, and the movie you're playing, is a lot of those things have to do with how you control it. And so it's a great book, and I love that. I wrote down the Warrior of Light and the 3 Magic Words. We'll have that in the show notes. What's one of the favorite mobile apps that you use in your business every day?
Uber.
You like Uber? Well, that one's like getting from point A to point B. Do you use Evernote, or do you use Todoist? Do you use anything in your?
I'll be honest. I use Google everything. Okay.
Google, yeah.
Because it's just so easy and user friendly. And you know me, I'm the opposite of a tech savvy guy, so I need super duper simple. Right. I use Google everything, even down to, I write a lot of stuff, but I can't write and type at the same time. And for those of you who are creative in thought and bad typers, Google's voice to record is second to none.
Yeah, it's great.
If you haven't used that app before.
Yeah.
It's simple for a person like me, who's kind of opposite in the techie world than you, right? Google provides services that are second to none. If you go over to the real estate side and managing all the leads, we keep it simple and Podio over there, which you're very familiar with as well.
Yep.
But I'm not a big techie guy at all.
Which is hilarious, because at one point you had a software.
Yeah, which we sold, because that was another perfect example of something that I should have never
got into. Hey, I got out of my software business too. What's your morning routine that you have right now? Do you have one that you get up? Are you really disciplined? And you strike me as a pretty disciplined person, but do you have a routine that you follow every morning?
Yeah. The first portion of my day is always investment, high lifetime value activity. So you break it down to high lifetime value activity, high dollar value activity, low dollar value activity, and no or negative dollar value activity. That's how I break up my day, right?
Wow.
And you're like, well, how do you have a negative dollar value activity? Well, anything that brings negativeness into your life. Getting caught up on Facebook and some of these bullshit chats that go on there, getting caught up in politics, wasting yourself in drama-rich TV, which are designed to suck you in and pull the worst out of you. That's negative value activity.
Yeah.
High lifetime value activities, any self-investment in you. It could be reading, it could be meditative, it could be physical fitness, anything that betters you as an individual. And then, of course, you look in your business. And so this is the antidote to running off of a checklist and going biggest fire first, right?
Right.
High dollar activity, high lifetime value activity, then high dollar value activity. And in my space, right, that's my ability to connect with my people out there. Anything I can do to connect with my people, whether it be writing blog posts, whether it be Facebook posts, whether it be interviews like this, okay, those have a high dollar value activity to me. Now, put in context, though, every morning I get up, I do my high lifetime value activity, and then time alone with my wife, and then with my kids. And once my kids are all on a bus and off to school, then I'll get into business after that. But this always comes before that, because my investment in my family and my relationships by far will outweigh anything I can do in business every day. And I know that for a fact. I've been married 22 years now, and it'd be very disingenuous and dishonest to say that it's always been easy. We've had some crazy rocky roads, and we've had to barrel through some, tough things, put our head down. We've had conversations where you say, do we want to continue or not? We've had those conversations, right?
Tough, right?
Yeah. So investing in that relationship every single day is a high lifetime value activity for me.
I love that, man. What's the single greatest lesson you've learned that's helped you get to where you are today?
Don't dwell on the past.
That's great. I love that.
I've screwed up so many things, Cody. It's mind-boggling. And it's so easy to look at what you did and let it drag you down in the present, So in my mind, and I still screw up things all the time. Some things I know better, and I still make the same dumb mistake that I just made 2 weeks ago, right? And it's easy to beat yourself up and beat yourself down and tell yourself you're not worth it. Tell yourself that nobody cares what you have to say. Tell yourself that what you're doing is so much inferior to what he's doing over there. It's so easy to go there, right?
That's really good. That's good advice, man. And I think that's probably if someone can really take what you're saying there to heart, it can radically change your life. Let me ask you something, Pat. Sure. You're successful. You've done all these things in life. What are you most grateful for?
All of it. My wife, my kids, my house, you wanting to bring me on to interview me, people who are out there listening to this right now, everything I have, the fact that I can still hop in an MMA cage at 48 years old, That's awesome. I'm grateful for absolutely everything. It's hard to bring this dude down these days because I look around and I'm like, wow, this is pretty awesome. Look, it's raining outside and I'm nice and dry, So it's easy to forget the simple things, bro.
It is.
Until you go outside. We're in Cabo, Mexico, a couple weeks ago, and you realize how many people don't look up and not see daylight in the little sheds that they have built to live in as a house over there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm grateful, bro.
I love it. I haven't had anybody ever say they're just grateful for everything. So
everything.
I love that. What point would you recommend hiring a mentor or coach, and how important has that been to your success to where you are today?
My true growth didn't happen until I got outside of myself, until I got with a mentor, until I came to the point that I just don't know what I don't know.
Right.
And I'll be honest with you, for a long time, like when we got ripped off. I didn't mention now $20,000. Okay, right. That we had to borrow at the time.
All the money in the world, what it seemed like.
Yeah.
It could have been $1 million. At how it felt at that point, probably.
I turned my back on personal development, Corey.
I'm sure you did. Yeah, and that's what happens when you get burned, right? You feel like everything that you go touch at that point is going to burn you, and the reality is it won't. But it's that example puts such a bad taste in your mouth that. Yeah, I agree. I think growing and expanding really comes from, I have mentors in my life. I spend time with some incredible people that I have a lot of respect for and teach me certain things. I have a trainer in my life that, teaches me certain things about my body that I don't know about. Mentors have everything to do with just being, someone that you look up to and that you learn from, and then you take those lessons and apply them to your life so you can expand. And it's hard. It's impossible, I would say, to do that whenever you're just in your own bubble. You just don't see it. Other people see the fishbowl. You're a little fish in your own little bowl, and you might have things under control, but then you try to expand and you hit the glass. You cannot expand. No one's telling you that you're just limited, right? So I think you limit yourself when you don't have a mentor. I think it's very important as well to get one. If you had to summarize it all up, why do you do what you do, Pat?
So, and you asked it in the right question, the why. I see our why broken into two parts, right? Your responsibilities and your priorities. Okay. And that's why when I ask somebody their why, I push them deeper on this question. So when you ask me my why, my first why, without a doubt, right, is to provide for my family, right? To bring my kids up the right way, to make sure I'm the role model, because it's not what I say, it's what I do that they learn from, right?
Absolutely.
To make sure that my wife is growing at the same pace that I am. And that's a whole other story. That's something we learned a long time ago. If we grow at different paces, you grow apart, right?
Yes.
To provide for them financially. So that's my priority. But I have a greater responsibility, and in my opinion, how this is defined, responsibility is more relative to your God-given talents and skill sets that are innate to you and how they allow you to have an impact on this world. My responsibility is to have as big a positive impact as I possibly can on as many people as I can while I'm here. To think for a second that it's just about me and my family is the most selfish, small vision you can possibly have. Right. Why. We're all bigger than that. We're all here for a very purposeful reason. We all don't know it, and that's not important. The important part is that we constantly seek to find out what it is, constantly test different things. It's not about it. It's about getting to it. Our journey through the journey. Right. Absolutely. Can I tell you for certain I know with absolute clarity what it is? No. But every day I find out more about it, and every day I find out more things that I weren't meant to do too, And that's kind of like my whole take on this whole failure thing. Failure is nothing more than feedback of what to do and what not to do. Both are of equal value to you, and both are required to make proper, intelligent decisions going forward. Without failure, you can't make intelligent decisions. And the longer you put off failing, the longer you put off making decisions to direct you toward your success. Just a function of how quickly and how badly you want it.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody say it like that. Without failure, you cannot make intelligent decisions. That might be a tweetable for you, because now I'm thinking about that. It's smarter to fail as fast as humanly possible so you can get to the things that you don't want to do and get through. Obviously, the faster you fail too, many times it's the least expensive failures. So as you learn more and do more, you're getting yourself involved with bigger things, and those failures can be more expensive. So do things now, take steps forward. Don't let fear hold you back, and fail as soon as you can, and as much as you can to have make intelligent decisions so you can learn from each one as you go. I like that a lot.
Good stuff, man.
I like it. All right. So, Pat, thank you so much for taking the time to be on here. Incredible. I know that this is going to be one of our favorite interviews here because we went over just some incredible life applications as well as incredible real estate lessons. How can we serve you? What's the best way to contact you? What do you want to accomplish for this next year? And how can we serve you? How can we give you back something that you've given us today?
Cool. So, probably the simplest way, we have a community. It's called peakperformancemastery.club. And if you like the stuff that Corey and I are talking about, picture this stuff 7 days a week, okay, in a live interactive community. And the whole idea, my purpose there, Corey, is to impact as many people as I can, to get as many people involved in it, right?
Okay.
We're constantly growing and expanding each other. And I'd say, let's start with that, okay? You can find out anything you want about me by just going to my site at patrickprecourt.com.
patrickprecourt.com, okay?
Yeah, you can find out everything that I do. But if you like the kind of stuff we're talking about, if you like kind of being pushed, I want to say more inspired than motivated, okay? And there's definitely a difference between the two. That's what the Peak Performance Mastery Club is all about.
That's awesome, man. And if we want to get in touch with you there, they have a way to contact you as well. You have a contact?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. Pat, it's been awesome. It's been great to catch up. I love to hear your stories. They're fascinating. And I know we just skim the top of some of the things that you've been through and some of the lessons that you can teach others. So anybody that works with you, I know, is just going to be really have some great fulfillment in their lives and use some incredible tools that it takes to have all these successes that you've had, even the ups and downs. I think being transparent the way you are and talking about those things is very powerful. So thanks again for taking the time to be on here, man. I really appreciate it.
Honored to be here. Loved it, man. Appreciate you.
Love it, man. All right, so make sure you're on our next Real Estate Investing Profits Masters podcast, and we're going to continue bringing the heat, man. And it's going to be tough to top Pat, but we'll do our best. So thanks again. Remember, be a servant. Talk to you later. Thanks again, Pat.
Peace.
You've been listening to another Real Estate Investing Profits Master Podcast series. To receive your free real estate book, Down and Dirty, Ultimate Real Estate Investing Quick Start Guide, how to quit your job to start flipping houses in 90 days or less, head online and go to realestateinvestingprofits.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Real Estate Investing Profits. Thanks again for listening, and stay tuned for our next episode.